Before moving on, please like and subscribe. We are a new YouTube channel, and your support is very important. Don't let us drown.
The stage was set in 1894 for a confrontation that would dramatically shift the power dynamics in East Asia. The First-Sino-Japanese War, rooted in centuries-old rivalries and ignited over the sovereignty of Korea, showcased the dramatic consequences of military modernization and strategic ambition. This video begins at the start of the conflict, where the aspirations of an emerging Japanese empire collided with the Qing Dynasty. Today, we set the scene for a war that would not only decide the fate of Korea, but also signal the rise of Japan and the beginning of the end for the Qing Empire. Some historians believe that the fall of the Qing dynasty started from the loss of the First Sino-Japanese War of 1894-1895. Let's see here how the war started. Its major battles will be covered in our next video. The war was ignited by the long-term rivalry of China and Japan for their influence over Korea.
In 1894, Japan and China were markedly different regarding their military power, forces, and readiness for conflict. China was 25 times bigger than Japan in territory and 7 times bigger in population. Population of Japan was about 50 million people, when that of China was equal to 360 million. Population of Korea, the main center of the conflict, was only 10 million. But despite China's vast size, population, and resources, Japan had the advantage of modernization and military efficiency.
During the war, a big role will be played by the Navy. The Japanese Navy was relatively small, but highly modern and well-trained, consisting of several modern ironclad warships and cruisers acquired from Britain. It was professional, disciplined, and equipped with the latest naval technology of the time. Chinese forces, the Beiyang Fleet, China's primary naval force, was the most modern segment of its military and had several modern ships. However, it suffered from inadequate training, poor maintenance, and a lack of effective leadership and combat experience. Army. The Japanese army was well organized, disciplined, and equipped with modern weapons, including rifles, artillery, and machine guns. The conscription system introduced in 1873 ensured a steady supply of young, able-bodied men trained in Western warfare tactics. The Chinese army was large but poorly equipped, trained, and organized. It was divided among various regional commands, which led to inconsistencies in quality and effectiveness. Much of the infantry was armed with obsolete weapons, and there was a significant lack of modern artillery and support units. The initial conflict of the Sino-Japanese War of 1894 was primarily over control and influence in Korea, which under the Joseon dynasty was a tributary state to the Qing Dynasty of China. This relationship was established for centuries.
What does it mean being a tributary state? As a tributary state, Korea paid homage to the Chinese emperor, recognizing the superiority of the Qing Empire. In return, Korea received legitimacy, protection, and a degree of autonomy in its internal affairs. China's role was that of a suzerain, expected to protect Korea from external threats and mediate internal disputes. The Joseon dynasty adopted Confucianism as the state ideology, mirroring the Chinese model. Chinese literary and philosophical works were highly esteemed, and the Korean elite used the Chinese writing system.
Korea's strategic position and its attempts to modernize and seek greater autonomy attracted interest from both China and Japan. Pursuing its imperial ambitions and seeking to expand its influence in Asia, Japan viewed Korea as a critical step towards broader regional dominance. Japan sent several expeditions to Korea in 1875, 1882, and 1884, and supported the Progressive Party in Seoul. After the latest hostilities in 1884, a convention of Tientsin was concluded.
Under the terms of the convention, the following was agreed: withdrawal of troops from Korea, Both China and Japan agreed to withdraw their troops from Korea, acknowledging Korea's sovereignty and the need for its government to reform. Notification of troop deployment. If either China or Japan felt compelled to send military forces to Korea in response to future disturbances, the other party had to be notified beforehand. This provision was intended to prevent surprise military movements and to maintain a balance of power in the region.
The Tonghak Rebellion and Chinese intervention. In 1894, the Tonghak Rebellion, a peasant uprising against the Korean government, prompted the Joseon dynasty to seek military assistance from China to suppress the revolt. China's intervention, following its obligations as the suzerain power, led to the deployment of Chinese troops to Korea. In June 1894, a small force of Chinese troops was sent to Asan. The Japan was duly informed in accordance with convention. Japan saw the instability in Korea and the Chinese intervention as an opportunity to assert its influence and control over the Korean peninsula. Japan immediately sent 8,000 troops under Major General Oshima to the capital Seoul, arguing that the Korean request for Chinese assistance and the subsequent Chinese military presence violated Korea's sovereignty and the agreement that both China and Japan would only intervene in Korea with prior notification and mutual consent. Japanese forces quickly moved to secure key locations in Seoul, effectively taking control of the Korean capital. In July, King Gojong rejects the Japanese proposal to accept protectorate status. On 23rd July, Japanese forces in Korea replaced pro-China government with a new client administration, which terminated all Sino-Korean treaties and gave consent for the expulsion of Chinese forces. Japanese forces capture King Gojong. China sends an additional 8,000 troops to the Yalu River. In just 2 days after this events, the first battle of the war will be fought.
So, at the start of the conflict, both China and Japan had their military forces in Korea. Japan controlled the capital, ready to send more troops. Chinese forces occupied Asan, about 40 miles from the capital, and had a considerable force in Manchuria and at the Yalu River. For how the war developed after this point, please see our next video, and don't forget to give us a like. We will see you soon.